Hello, in this video of Clarkenomics, we're going to be talking about products. So in the production process, as I mentioned in a previous video called the factors of production, we have this funnel called entrepreneurship, and into that funnel we put the factors of production such as land, labor, and human and physical capital in order to create products. So in this video, we're going to talk about those products. Products are simply the output created by combining the factors of production. The factors of production are the inputs, and from those we get the output. And we can further subcategorize products into goods or services. Goods are categorized as tangible things that you can hold, so like a phone or an orange, something like that. That is a tangible thing that you can hold. Other goods, are physical capital, get used again as physical capital. So looking at an example like an airplane, a company like Boeing produces an airplane. That's a product that they produce. That plane gets purchased by another company and becomes their physical capital. So for instance, Southwest Airlines would purchase a plane from Boeing, and Southwest Airlines is going to use that plane as physical capital to produce what they produce, and what they produce is a service. A service is different from a good in that it's not a tangible thing, but it's an action or actions performed. So Boeing produces a good, an airplane, that gets used as physical capital by Southwest Airlines to produce a flight. That's an action performed. And the US economy really used to focus on the production of goods. That was the primary way that the United States economy operated. But that has been changing for the last 100 years, for the last 50 years. Today, about 67%, that's about two-thirds of the US's economic production comes from the production of services, not goods. So only about a third of our economy is from the production of goods. The other two-thirds come from the production of services. And why does this matter? Well, it matters because as this ratio changes, as we produce more services and fewer goods, people need new human capital in order to stay productive. And you see this all the time. So if you used to work in a factory that produced a good, and the United States is moving away from the production of goods, and you find yourself in a situation where to earn your livelihood, you have to produce a service, you're probably going to need some new human capital, unless the skills from your old job perfectly transfer over into your new job, which is hardly ever the case. So in order to stay productive and earn money and keep a good standard of living, people are going to need to be adaptable and be able to absorb new human capital, and that's going to become particularly important when we talk about productivity. So productivity is what makes an economy successful or failing. It's what can make somebody very wealthy or very, very poor. How productive is a worker, is a unit of capital? We'll talk about all this throughout the course. But simply put, productivity means how much output are you getting from each of your inputs? And we're really asking about how the land, how the labor, how the capital get used, right? Are we wasting, or are we getting the most possible output from the inputs that we put in? Are we being efficient? So to illustrate this point, I'm going to use a few numbers here. We're going to say there is a factory where workers produce a good called widgets. Widgets are nothing. Widgets are something that economists like to use a lot because they're kind of bland and neutral, and people can't put their assumptions about life on them very easily. And so we're going to assume a couple things about widgets. First, widgets are standardized. What that means is every widget is the same as every other widget. There is no meaningful difference between widgets. So that's the first thing that we're going to assume about widgets. And we're going to also assume that all of this production is happening in a fixed unit of time. So whether it's 1 day of production or 1 year of production, the time span doesn't really matter as long as we keep it the same for both of our companies. And those companies we're going to call firms. So firm A is one company and firm B is another company. And you'll see that in our set amount of time, whatever it is, doesn't matter, firm A produced 100 widgets and firm B produced only 50. And you might think to yourself, okay, wow, firm A is really doing it well. But then you look at the worker data, and to produce those 100 widgets, firm A needed 25 workers and firm B only needed 5 workers. And so if you're going to compare which firm is more successful, or which firm's failing, you can't just look at the widgets produced. You have to look at the last row of the table here, productivity, widgets per worker. How many widgets did each worker produce? So for firm A, you can calculate this probably pretty easily. they produced 100 widgets, but it took them 25 workers to do that. Productivity is 4 widgets per worker. 4 times 25 is 100. For firm B, they produced 50 widgets, but only needed 5 workers to do that. That is a productivity of 10 widgets per worker. So to find out which firm is actually the most productive firm, you would choose firm B because they have better productivity. That's going to make them a more successful company. And, you can think about why that would be. Imagine those workers all get paid the same amount, right? Firm A is each worker is producing 4 widgets. For firm B, each worker is producing 10 widgets. And if you have to pay every worker the same no matter what company they come from, you'd much rather have a firm B situation because every worker is more productive. So, generally, who cares? So imagine, if you will, each worker gets paid $10 per widget that they produce. So if you're a worker at firm A, you're making $40. You produced 4 widgets and you get paid $10 for each one. If you work for firm B, which I cannot say, it's so hard to say that, you are getting $100. You're making 10 widgets and you're getting paid $10 per widget. Now, if you want to take this idea instead of 2 firms but apply it to an entire economy, it really matters, right? If workers are more productive, they are earning more money. And so, to kind of like sum everything up here, standard of living for an entire country or for a family depends on how productive workers actually are. If you're not productive, you are not going to be paid. If you're more productive, you're going to be paid more. And so the quality of life, to some degree, and the standard of living as we measure it, is going to depend on how productive you are. So that is all about products and production. Thanks for watching.